What have businesses been spending on in 2024? That's the question we aim to answer with this webinar. My name is Brandon Till. I'm the head of transformation here at Soldo, and we'll be unpacking our report, the Soldo Spend Index from the spring of 2024, which takes all of the spend data across companies using Soldo and takes a look at what exactly are businesses investing in, what are they divesting in this new year. If you're not familiar with Soldo, Soldo is a decentralized spend management platform. Most of the spending in a business is centralized, going through procurement channels that are tried and tested and work well to control spending. But about 80% of the transactions are done by employees on behalf of the business, and it's very hard to keep up with them. These are on things like travel or on things like unpredictable purchases that come up from time to time, or even planned spending on things like digital ads that companies need a card to do. And it becomes a kind of a nightmare for finance to keep up with. It leads to overspending, underspending, and end of the month headaches. And Soldo provides a centralized solution to manage this decentralized spending. It gives full control, maximum hands-off control for finance, while leaving employees empowered to spend money on behalf of the company without the need for reimbursement or timely end of the month chasing receipts and getting it all done. So your business runs smoothly. You can free up the finance and the flow of money to help everyone accomplish more. Bring this up because it's important to know, where does the data in this webinar come from? It comes from the companies using our system. This looks at more than 18,000 companies across Europe and across the world in Q1, comparing it, how was their average spending per account in Q2? We look at the spend patterns by category, by size of company and location to come up with these insights. In this webinar, we're going to cover 5 things: a brief look at the market archetype, what's the world look like this day and age, deep diving into artificial intelligence. For the first time, we've done some categorization on company spending around AI, and we see exactly which type of tech they're investing in. We'll take a look at travel spend, nomadic employees, people traveling for their job, and what does that look like for businesses. Finally, we'll take a deep dive into general spending and then look at some industry benchmarks. So let's start off with the market outlook. What does the world look like for businesses in 2024? Well, in some ways, it feels like there's a bit of a calm before the storm. We see that it's an election year in 50 countries across the world, including the US and the UK, where it looks like there's going to be a shift in political perspectives that could cause different programs and different ways businesses respond to it. Overall, though, in the beginning of the year, it's been pretty good economic growth for most countries in Europe, except for Sweden, which saw a decline. The overall economy grew by 0.3%, which was outperforming the market expectations, and inflation slowed from 2.9% to 2.7%. Germany and France really helped drive some of this growth, with 0.2 and 0.3% growth, surpassing the modest expectation of 0.1%. So all in all, while there's a feeling of uncertainty in the air, the actual growth of economies and the status of the European economy is pretty strong. But with this uncertainty, how do businesses respond to that? One of the ways we've seen is this investment in AI. And it's been really interesting as we deep dive into the numbers of how are companies using AI in 2024 versus 2023. So far, we've seen an explosion in the category. It is 2.75%, so just under three times growth of the category, and just under 450% increase in AI tools. Now, this doesn't include AI tools, businesses using AI that's built into the tools they already have, things like Copilot for Microsoft or Gemini for Google that might already be included in the business services. This is additional tools that they've bought. So why are companies doing this? More or less boils down to creating an operational efficiency or looking for a competitive advantage. How do they create a cost-effective way to produce more, to be effective, and to run their business? And which departments do we see this spending coming in? We took all the tools we see spending in Soldo and broke it down to say, what is their primary purpose? Then divided that and assigned it to different teams where we can see teams spending this. The number one, with 48% of spending, is coming from marketing. Marketing teams are using it for things like image generation, creating content, SEO, writing, translations. So a number of items that marketing is finding useful for them to get their job done faster, independently, more efficiently. The next place we see is support and CS. This is largely driven by the popularity of chatbots. The chatbots you see on websites, which are becoming quite good with AI, where people can get answers, and it helps to provide customers a better experience through AI chat. Next, at 14%, we see sales, just behind customer success and CS. Sales is using tools for some of it for writing and for sales writing, but primarily for finding sales leads. Do they find ways to find accounts or target leads in a way to open up new opportunities? Finally, across the business, we see 24% coming for things like plugins, different writing tools per department, so ways that they get general productivity from AI. If you broke down this a step further, which you can find in the report, I welcome you to download the report available on Soldo's website. We see that the top tool by far is ChatGPT, OpenAI, with 63% of spending going to that tool alone. Next is Midjourney, which is a image generation software, followed by Otter AI, which does transcriptions. Fireflies is a meeting summary, and which is 3%. So it does, after that big jump at 63% for OpenAI, there's a 12% to Midjourney. So they're really dominating the market with the wide range of functions that OpenAI and ChatGPT can provide to businesses. But along with then looking at, so what are they spending on the tools? What departments are spending? We can also look at where don't we see this spending? And I think it's interesting that we don't see it yet in finance or in procurement teams. And it's interesting because these teams are strapped. We know that your finance team is often operating at capacity. They are looking for ways that they need to operate more efficiency as talent is hard to find. And the workload by Hackett Group is predicted to increase 5% throughout the year. So these teams need to find ways to work more effectively and efficiently for the business, oftentimes wanting to drive digital transformation, but finding it difficult to do this unless it's mandated by the business because it takes full capacity just to operate the day-to-day, keeping up month to month with the business. So Gardner's saying that only 9% of finance organizations are currently using AI, and 61% have no plans or just in the initial phases of doing these plans. And I think the takeaway here is, so whether or not it's AI or it's another system that's going to help automate workflows and give you more time in your business, finance and procurement should be looking for ways that they can provide transformation for the business and access to AI to drive efficiencies and help people accomplish more, but also for themselves. Soldo offers a way that frees up a ton of time with just matching budgets to, spending to budget, and closing month end can reduce the spend by 80%. All these types of innovations help free up more time for finance, who can then focus on more strategic things. So whether it's AI or not, I think finance is the next team that needs to be looking for ways to drive more efficiencies. Diving in beyond AI, where are companies investing in it? And one I always look to is travel, nomadic spending, how people who need to travel on behalf of the company to do their job. I think it's interesting because coming out of the pandemic, that travel had stopped and people have found new ways to do their business. And this is the first time, according to Business Travel News, that we're going to see travel is expected to surpass pre-pandemic levels. So business as usual is the meeting face-to-face as it was before the pandemic. Our data supports this. We've seen 20% year-over-year growth in T&E expenses, largely driven by airline costs for the enterprise, for large businesses, companies with over 250 employees, spending 23% more in airline spend, as well as 20% across all market segments, spending more in entertainment costs. There was a little bit of a downturn for medium-sized businesses and for small businesses in travel spending, but across the board, and it breaks down more specifically which categories in the report, but you can see that travel spend is up and business as usual is meeting face-to-face. What's new in travel is also has to do with ESG initiatives. You look at how people are traveling, and now there are more electric cars on the road. With that comes more spending on charging electric vehicles. This, again, driven by large businesses with 324% increase year over year in what they're spending charging electric vehicles, with also double the gain, 112% increase for medium and small size business charging at EV stations. This is part due to the popularity of the cars, the availability of the chargers, and also the companies being more sustainable. There's new rules, mandates, regulations in place where companies are tracking their carbon footprints and their sustainability reporting. So switching over to electric is part of that initiative, but we see companies making that change in both auto sales and in how they then charge those autos by being more sustainable. And the rest of the spending, and outside of travel, outside of the environment, we see general spending is up. General spending is up, especially within technology, another area where businesses look to drive innovation, but they look to drive efficiencies across their business. We see it up 16% in the UK. We see it up 22% in Italy, and the rest of the world up 27%. All around, companies are investing in tech, looking for how can they be more efficient at business. And it's also across businesses of all size. So along with the AI tools, technology helping to drive efficiencies. The general spending in stores, where do we see the opposite of this trend? Where is spending down? We see spending down in-store shopping. The more and more purchases are going online, especially I think for businesses and procurement channels like Amazon Business. With Soldo in the first half of the year, we're close to seeing 500,000 purchases on Amazon alone. We built an integration with Amazon Business to help really streamline and add further levels of control and discounts for people making these purchases, because we see businesses are looking to channels like that for their procurement needs. And we want to streamline, make that even easier, saving more time and making it just incredibly efficient for people to buy what they need to get their jobs done at work. We see then the other side of this is less buying in stores, 14% down in the UK and 10% down in Italy, business spending in store. Small sliver, 1% up, more or less even for medium-sized businesses, but overall spending in store is down. So how does spending also then break down by industry and where different people operate? The benchmarking, if we look at benchmarking, want to compare 7 different industries. All of these were chosen because there's at least 1,000 companies per industry. So we're comparing a really sizable amount of data for benchmarking. And we're looking at care, the care industry, construction, education, hospitality, manufacturing, professional services, and software. The first place I want to go back to is taking a look at that tech spend. We looked at that tech spending was up and people were spending, but let's take a look at how it compares by industry. If you look at the overall amount, software provides technology, first to adopt technology, looking for ways that they can drive increases in technology. So that spending is the highest, more than doubling most of the other industries, and they've also increased spending by over 25%. Hospitality and construction, the other two that really stand out, if you look at the graph on the right, about where do people, which industries are really improving their investment in technology. And I'd say that this is coming from the looking towards the future. Where can we invest now in this uncertain political environment to provide long-term growth? And technology is a good way to do this. How do you drive those efficiency for the long term, investing in technology now? And we see this across all these industries. The other place we want to look at then is benchmarking, is advertising spend. Advertising for me is the second barometer of a downturned economy. Finance is very good at cutting spend when they need to, tightening the belt, but they're not afraid to invest in growing the business and operating the business. It's not just pinching pennies, it's really helping the company strategically grow. And so advertising is one of those first barometers that becomes easy to say, hey, if things are down, we're going to cut spend. And it becomes one of those places oftentimes look to spend. So I look at it as how do companies feel about it? Where are they spending? And what you see is generally spend is up. There's a downturn in education, which is partially, I think, time of year, but it's comparing year over year. Education spend down. The main one, software, is actually 1% down. You can't see it in the graph, but software, a graph on the right, is 1% down. But if you look at the overall spend of software, they are more than double the nearest, and tripling, quadrupling some of these other industries. Software is still spending far and away the most on software. If you're selling tools and a business selling services or tools to help people with their ad spend and digital advertising, software is far and away the ones doing the most, but you see it up. You see it up also in industries where it hasn't been that big before. Places like care, where we know there's a growing need, people advertising their services. But the other way we see people advertising within these industries is advertising for recruitment. In care, there can be a shortage of workers. People always looking to help staff care homes. They look to digital ad platforms to help drive this as well. So it's advertising for both their services and to help staff their services. But overall, we see construction, care, manufacturing, places that don't traditionally spend as much, spending more in advertising, by comparison, quite a bit more than they had in the past, even though it doesn't quite eclipse an industry like software. Now, we go into more detail on all of these areas of spending, some ones I haven't had the chance to mention. But I wanted to give you an overview as well as some background and some more insight into where it is. If you'd like to, please download the full spend index report before I give you sort of 3 final takeaways to look at. This will be a quarterly report as well, so you can take a look for our next one coming out soon about how do people spending over the summer. And while we wait for that one, just three final takeaways that we see from this spending on both technology and spending on AI, that productivity is becoming really key for businesses. Getting that efficiency which is seen as a competitive advantage perhaps now and how teams can operate better. It's an advantage now. It's going to be the norm very soon with that increase in spending and that rapid increase in spending that's set to continue. If you're not using AI or making plans to make AI, you need to start to think about this now because it's going to be normal across industries. So to compete, you need to make sure you're getting those same efficiencies as the rest of the market. The next would be focusing on the long term. We see that in investments in technology, investments in different areas of if it's uncertain economies, if governments may switch, if there may be more programs that businesses can take advantage of, or perhaps cutting costs that they can't, think about long-term investments. Where do you spend now that's going to drive money 12, 24, 36 months from now? And you're going to be happy that these are the areas that you've prioritized. What are those transformation efforts for areas like finance or procurement, which may be strapped for time, that's going to help them perform better? The last is thinking about ESG. We only touched on it briefly with the use of electric chargers, but we see that this is an area exploding with spend as well, in the sense that the new mandates and initiatives and more responsibilities across procurement and finance to report on ESG. We know that companies are spending on this. We do have some more for you in store for that. We're looking forward to talking about it from Soldo, how we can help companies with this reporting. You'll have to stay tuned for the future, but I'll leave you with that little seed, planting a little preview. I hope this was insightful. Please download the report for more, and that you find this as a way that helps you understand the market, that you can, again, help free up the flow of money in your business and help everyone accomplish more. Thank you.